I'd love to hear from your perspective of helping so many people get assistance. Like, what is the biggest challenge? So for when people are first starting out, and they realize they probably need an assistant, what's the biggest mistake? Because you hear a lot of horror stories of people that do it the wrong way. So what would you recommend to people?
So we've hired over 300 assistants now. How cool is that?
Wow.
And what people might think is extra cool is the fact that I probably only hired about the first 20, and my team has done the next like 280 plus since then, and that's back when it was just me doing it alone, and so now we got a team of 10 and it's really cool. So, this is it. Okay. This is it. And this is true. This was as true as when I hired my first assistant overseas to when I got my first great assistant, which is North American long-term, to the 300th assistant we've hired for a client or something like that, right? So I kept thinking over and over and over again that getting assistant was like winning the lottery, right? Like Kirby, it's so painfully obvious now. I'm just like, oh, Tim, come on, man. Like, you've learned this lesson before. Okay. What does American Idol implicitly promise? Win a record deal, like win the show, win a record deal, you're set for life, or like you're set as a musician. Okay. Mm-hmm. What does the lottery promise? Stroke the lucky one thing, the silver bullet, and you're set for life, right? What does every diet pill and fitness machine promise? What do get the partner of your dreams, get the whatever, get the house of your dreams, you'll be happy. Like, it is unbelievable, since two cavemen fought over one cave woman, okay, how much we so badly want to believe that the silver bullet exists in all things at all times. We want it. We all want it so badly, okay? And it's the exact same thing. I'd read the 4 Hour Work Week. I'm reading about how all these stories, these incredible overseas assistants that just like $4 an hour, $10 an hour, $6 an hour, all of a sudden change your life. You know what I mean? So I had the lottery mentality. And what I very quickly realized after I burned through, Kirby, 5 assistants, and I was unsuccessful over and over and over again. So I sat back in my chair and I thought to myself, what's the one common denominator to all these failed working relationships? Let me think about it. Still thinking, oh, it's me. Got it. Fast forward a few years, and Great Assistant was up and running now. And I hosted an event alongside Perry Marshall. It was the 80/20 Summit, and it was at a Scottish baronial castle that is now a hotel called the Banff Springs Hotel in breathtaking Banff, Canada. We had people from Singapore, India, the United States, Canada, like worldwide had flown in there. It wasn't a big group. It was like 40 or 50 of us, but we're all in this castle in the mountains. It was such a cool experience, right? And I'd flown my team in. To come be a part of it so they could learn, they could meet our customers, and on and on and on. So I'll always remember, I got this great idea towards the end of one of the days. I said, I'm going to bring Sarah. Sarah at the time was my great assistant. She was my great assistant for 6 years, former paralegal from Indiana. And so she was there with us in Banff. And I bring her up to the front of the room. And this was not scripted. I hadn't thought of this much more than 10 seconds before it actually happened. I said to the audience, all right, well, I didn't prep Sarah with any answers, and nor did I prep you with any questions. Ask her anything you want. She's like the original great assistant. Ask her anything you want. Like, she's taken over my email inbox. She flies me all over the continent to speak. She does this. She does all these. Like, when I go somewhere to speak, when I arrive at the Airbnb, the groceries that I want are already in the fridge before I even got there. Like, that's the level of like how good she is, right?
Nice.
And yeah. And so I'm like, ask her anything, right? Well, of course, someone says, what's the one thing that you think has created you and Tim's relationship to be working so well, right? And of course, it's like someone couldn't have started with like, how's your day? We had to go straight to the heart of the matter, right? And Sarah was quiet for a second, or a few moments. She's kind of contemplating the answer, and the room was silent. Like, the great assistant is here, about to bestow upon us like the number one secret to success, right? And I'm sitting there, I'm like, I have no idea what she's going to say either, right? So that's kind of an interesting moment. I'm sweating buckets, like, yeah. And then she pulls her head up and she kind of scans across the room, and she says, you know what? If you want a great assistant, you have to be a great leader. And I was like, damn, that is so on point. So here's a question. I'll give it to everybody. This is a really, 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 really powerful question. I came up with this years ago. Actually, when I was sick laying in bed, and I was like, I've screwed up all these different assistant hires, and now I want it to go really well. So what has to change? I got to change I got to be better if I want to get better, Mm-hmm. So the question, first of all, I realized that I've been thinking of my assistant as an expense, right? $10 an hour, whatever it is. My assistant is an expense. Well, look, if your assistant in your mind is an expense, there's nothing they could ever do that would make them a compelling hire. If they're just an expense. What I realized, though, is I had to think about my relationship with my assistant. And as soon as I thought about my relationship with my assistant, I realized it was a profit center. If I can get 3 tasks off my plate that my assistant goes and takes off, like 5 hours a week or something like that, 10 hours a week, whatever it is. And I know how to generate more clients or more customers or more deals or more money, like the right mix of that. Then when I get those 5 hours back from my assistant, because they're taking things off my plate, do I binge Netflix? No. I take those 5 hours and I go get more clients, or I go find the next deal, or whatever it is that's the revenue generator. Okay, great. So I go do that, and that might make me an extra $5,000, let's just say. Okay. With those $5,000, so now I have the gift of more money. I got a little more time and I turn that into more money. Am I going to Disneyland? No, not going to Disneyland. What am I doing? I'm taking that $5,000, I'm giving it to my assistant. So now my assistant, instead of working 5 or 10 hours a week, now they're working like 10, 15, 20 hours a week or something like that. Great. So then what does that do? That means the assistant's giving me, guess what? More time. And now I don't have just a bonus 5 hours a week. I got like a bonus 15 hours a week. So now maybe I can go and look at 3 deals simultaneously, or I can work on a project and get it to market faster or something like that, right? So now the cycle time, me being able to make money, goes up. And so I call this the positive profit loop. The positive profit loop, where I can exchange a little bit of money for a little bit of time, which turns into more money, more time, and it just goes back and forth, back and forth. And this is how we climb the 80-20 curve. This is how we climb the 80-20 curve. So that was like major realization laying in bed, was that. And almost the very next thought was, instead of asking the question, how do I get an assistant as inexpensively as possible, which produces a whole world of answers, okay, I asked a different question. I said, what would have to be true that the next assistant I hire stays with me for 3 years and is the best investment I've ever made? Holy Kirby. The answers that came out of that question changed my life. In many ways, one example, I'd been trying to just like go on Upwork or Elance or whatever website, or onlinejobs.ph, and just like hire someone, right? Well, look, if you're going to be with the next person you hire, for better or worse, is going to be with you for 3 years, you're probably going to be a lot more selective about who you hire. Okay, great. So we're going to look at like not just 3 or 4 applicants. We're going to look at like dozens and dozens of applicants. Okay, got it. Strategy 1. Strategy 2, instead of being annoyed that I have to onboard and train them, if this person's going to be with me for 3 years, I want to do as much onboarding and training as fast as possible to get this person up to speed so we can get to the good stuff. Instead of taking 90 days for them to break even with me, let's make it like 6 weeks. Let's make it like 3 weeks. How can I start getting my time back like next week? You know what I mean? So, okay, great, onboarding and training. Okay, if I'm looking at this person and they're going to be with me for the next 3 years, like I'm probably excited to meet with them every single week instead of being like, oh, I have to have a meeting. Like just correspond with me via email. That's kind of the 4-hour work week way of doing things, right? No. Look, this is your right-hand person. Okay. This person is your ticket to freedom. I would trade a 90-minute once a week meeting for 38 hours of freedom every day of the week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Every day of the week. So, okay. Well, I should like make that like religion. Like I am never missing that meeting. It is the highlight of my week. Well, okay. And I could keep going with a few others, but look at that. Guess what? The answers that come out of the question, what would have to be true if the next assistant I hire stays with me for 3 years and they're the best investment I've ever made, right? Well, guess what? The answers that come out of that, that's actually just called being a good leader. When you hire well, when you train and onboard well, when you manage well, instead of being like, oh, they're just a robot overseas, it's like, no. Like, who is this person? Like, do they have kids? Do you know, like, how can I like wish them happy birthday, happy anniversary? Like, what are their passions? Can I send them something cool in the mail, an Amazon gift card? Like, how can I just like be like, yo, you and me, ride or die. Let's do this thing, you know? And I think that mind shift going all the way back to when I couldn't walk and I didn't even have a business called Great Assistant, that those fundamental shifts in my attitude and my outlook opened the door for me to go like, and Kirby, I made $39,000. That's it. In the 12 months before I got my first North American Great Assistant, I made $39,000. I had this epiphany. I went on a website called hiremymom.com. I posted my job post. I ended up meeting Sarah. And in the 12 months after I started working with Sarah, even though I didn't know what to delegate first, I was terrified to trust her with anything, and I didn't have the money. Even though all that was true, I still hired her. And in the 12 months after we started working together, I went from making $39,000 to $107,000. Same industry, same market, same service, same everything we're offering. The only difference was I used the positive profit loop to go focus on how I could drive more and more revenue and cash, and she could take care of more of the rinse, wash, and repeat over it. And that's it. It's like, it's really that simple.
Wow. I think Heather, probably my assistant, is probably watching this going, you should take some notes, Kirby, on how to, manage your assistant better or be a better leader. But such great advice in there, because it's so true. I associate it after looking back at my, trial and errors as well, as the same as like borrowing money. It's sort of like you're leveraging, and if you borrow money on a deal and the deal goes bad or you manage it improperly, it amplifies the negativity on that deal. But if you borrow money, you're leveraging, instead of the money, you're leveraging your time, and you do it in the right way, as you're describing, being a good leader and setting it up the right way, it can massively amplify your ability to get things done. So I love that. It was such a great way to describe it. So, well,
and I'll just emphasize too, like, look, I was not great at delegating. I didn't even know how to do a weekly meeting. Mm-hmm. What changed was my attitude. What changed my attitude? I said, you know what? I will be a great leader. I'll be great at onboarding, training, managing. I don't even know what that means. Yeah. You know what I mean? I literally don't even know what that means. But again, it's that moment of surrender. I'm surrendering to my business in the way that, like, this is what my business is calling for. Just like a baby crying for a bottle. Okay, I'm surrendering to the baby needs the bottle. Okay, I got it. So that just, so I say that because if someone's listening to this, they're like, well, Tim, that's great. I'm on board, but I don't know how to onboard. I don't know how to delegate. I don't know how to manage. That's okay. You can absolutely learn these skills. They're not that complicated. We even have some free resources to help people with that. And at the same time, I could have all the resources in the world for you, but if you don't have the attitude and the outlook that, you know what, I'm going to surrender. I'm going to take this on. I'm going to do this because this is what my business needs. It wouldn't matter what I'd have to share.